Yo, what up, internet friends? I am Sixy, and today we will be going over the 7 easiest specs to help you guys get your Spell Tome Mount. The first thing we're going to start with is the Highlord's Return. It is the tank spec challenge that includes Blood Death Knight, Vengeance Demon Hunter, Guardian Druid, Brewmaster Monk, Protection Paladin, and Protection Warrior. Now, of these, I have completed 5 out of the 6. The only one I have yet to complete is Brewmaster Monk. I have done a few polls on it. I started it last night. Of these 6 classes, Vengeance Demon Hunter is by far and away the easiest one. This is due to the fact that Vengeance Demon Hunter has a very easy defensive rotation. They only have a few abilities at their disposal. So getting through that final phase is actually relatively easy and one of the shorter ones in comparison to some of the other classes. The fact that you can glide back onto the platform, the Infernals that would normally pose a problem for other classes is just a non-factor. It's the easiest class to dodge beams and to jump over them. You can also use Infernal Strike to easily reposition yourself throughout the room. All of these factors, it is by far and away the easiest one to kind of comprehend and understand. And you should be able to get it within a reasonable number of polls. Now, the second one that I completed, so the second one we'll go over, is Closing the Eye. This is a challenge that includes Frost Death Knight, Havoc Demon Hunter, Survival Hunter, Subtlety Rogue, and Arms Warrior. Of this challenge, I have completed 2 of the 5. I have completed Havoc Demon Hunter and Arms Warrior. With Havoc Demon Hunter, I was able to do it in a full Shadowlands set of gear, whereas with Arms Warrior, I used some different trinkets and a Crusader enchant. However, both of them pose the same problems and have the same issues. I feel that this is probably true for every class in this category. Of these 2, my final decision is that Havoc Demon Hunter is just a tiny bit easier. In the second phase of this challenge, the DPS rotation is super significant. Your ability to execute a single target rotation ultimately is the deciding factor on whether you complete this challenge or not. The next challenge we're going to go over is an impossible foe. This includes Unholy Death Knight, Feral Druid, Fire Mage, Outlaw Rogue, Elemental Shaman, and Fury Warrior. Of this challenge, I've completed Elemental Shaman and Fury Warrior. Between the 2 that I've played, my recommendation is to play Fury Warrior. This is a very easy spec to learn. All you have to do is press the light up button. I did have a few tricks and enchants and trinkets to make this fight go a little bit easier, but of all the specs to play, it's literally as brain dead as you can get. Eventually you'll get this kill, especially if you use your consumables. With Elemental Shaman, one of the difficulties I found was that I couldn't really effectively deal with the Plague ad. This was causing a lot of problems with space management, and ultimately this was what was really slowing me down and causing me to wipe. With some of the other specs, I've been told that Unholy Death Knight is relatively easy. For me, I've tried playing Fire Mage for exactly 3 seconds. I found the rotation to be quite complicated in order to min-max your DPS. With this particular challenge, I don't think there's too much importance placed on min-maxing your DPS in order to get through the challenge. So I think that probably any of these specs are relatively doable if you're willing to put the time into learning them. The next challenge we're going to go over is God Queen's Fury. I love the name of this challenge, but I could not stand the challenge itself. This challenge includes the specs Arcane Mage, Retribution Paladin, Assassination Rogue, Enhancement Shaman, and Demonology Warlock. Of these classes, I have only completed Retribution Paladin, but I have put in over 200 attempts in on Demonology Warlock. I by far and away recommend using Retribution Paladin. Now, I did need a Crusader enchant in order to be able to beat this challenge. I do want to take a second to explain that the Crusader enchant has been nerfed. I did these challenges after the Crusader enchant nerf. Even after the nerf, the healing from the Crusader enchant is huge and allows you to stay away from utilizing the healing portion of your utility, which ultimately saves you globals, which increases your DPS. But I was able to eventually get it. I think the rotation for Retribution Paladin is relatively easy. I have been told that Enhancement Shaman is relatively easy as well. I had a friend do it in, an afternoon. I think that Enhancement Shaman probably has the tools to make the fight relatively easy. So if this is something you're comfortable on, perhaps try Enhancement Shaman. Demonology Warlock, I believe, needs an extensive amount of special trinkets or special gear in order to probably complete the challenge in time. The challenge has a soft enrage timer of about 5 minutes and 30 seconds and then hard enrage timer somewhere in the 6-minute mark. So you'll need to be able to do enough DPS to get through that. And in order to do that, you have to keep the bosses stacked on top of each other. You have to have like really great execution of your AoE rotation. And then you'll also need to have an understanding of your single target rotation to get through the shields. As well as you're having to dodge a lot of different mechanics, as well as the fact that you cannot miss key CCs. With all of the movement in this fight, I think it's nearly impossible to get it done on Demonology Warlock, so I highly recommend you stay away from this unless you're a Demonology Warlock expert. The next challenge we'll go over is End of the Risen Threat. This is the Healer challenge. It includes Restoration Druid, Mistweaver Monk, Holy Paladin, Holy Priest, and Restoration Shaman. What's interesting is that of the healers, Disc Priest is not included in this. Disc Priest is actually included in Feltotem's Fall, which we'll go over in a little bit. Of these specs and classes, I've only completed Holy Paladin. I've made a few attempts with Restoration Shaman. Of the two, I think that Holy Paladin is probably the easiest to learn. However, while I was working on Holy Paladin, they did nerf Restoration Shaman, so I think that it's probably easily completable as well. This fight doesn't really boil down to having a strong understanding of how to heal and more a strong understanding of how to follow the script. It does require you to know your DPS rotation. It also does require you to use your utility buttons in perfect fashion. I found that Holy Paladin was probably the easier of the two, simply because DPS is built into the healing rotation. Now, there is no DPS requirement, in my opinion, on the final phase, but it definitely helps to have an understanding of your DPS rotation in the other two phases. And since it's built into the class, while you learn how to heal, you learn how to DPS. So I definitely recommend Holy Paladin in this one. As you go through it, you'll get a better understanding. The next one is Thwarting the Twins. This challenge has Balanced Druid, Marksmanship Hunter, Frost Mage, Shadow Priest, and Affliction Warlock. Now, I'm a streamer on Twitch, and I had a lot of people coming in while I was doing the Frost Mage challenge. By far and away, I believe the easiest is probably Frost Mage. I had a lot of people come in and complain about Affliction Warlock. A few people come in and complain about Marksmanship Hunter as well as Balanced Druid. It seems to me that these other classes are substantially worse at doing this challenge. With Frost Mage, the total fight time was probably sub 7 or 8 minutes. With almost everybody that's done the Affliction Warlock has told me that it's 10 plus. With this challenge, it's super imperative that you don't make specific mistakes or the run is completely ended. The longer the fight goes on, the easier it is to make some of these mistakes. So the fact that Frost Mage is just substantially shorter makes it a lot easier and a lot more likely that you're not going to make a critical mistake in order to get through this challenge. Now, of all of the challenge, Feltotem's Fall is probably the easiest one. The classes that are included in this challenge are Beastmaster Hunter, Windwalker Monk, Discipline Priest, and Destruction Warlock. I spent like 3 pulls on Destruction Warlock, but I really did not have an understanding of the rotation, but I also didn't know the fight when I tried it. I ended up going with Windwalker Monk to complete this challenge. It's the only one that I've done. With Windwalker Monk, I literally had no idea what I was doing with the DPS rotation. As long as you're patient and figure out the right times to use your defensives and your utility abilities, the script that you need to follow in order to complete this challenge is relatively easy. It boils down to perfect, almost 30-second increments. And it's honestly just a war of attrition. Towards the end, you just basically want to have the bosses relatively close in health before you kill the melee boss. And then it's just a burn phase, making sure that you don't die before you're able to kill the worm. Overall, I found this challenge to be relatively easy. I was drunk doing most of my progression through it and didn't struggle too much when I finally attempted the fight when I was sober. All right, fam. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, please consider liking. You can also subscribe to the channel. I have Mage Tower guides available to you guys. Currently, we have Elemental Shaman, Blood Death Knight, Holy Paladin, and Guardian Druid. In the next coming days, I will be uploading more videos. So if you're struggling with any particular challenge, these are step-by-step guides with both my gear, my spec, everything, consumables, what we used, and exactly what Bretons we pushed. Those guides will be available to you to help get you through it. I think the Spell Tome Mount's a great looking mount, and I'm sure if you're watching this video, you think it's a great looking mount too.